With us now to talk more about this, NBC News correspondent Dasha Burns, Glenn Kirshner, a former federal prosecutor and host of the Justice Matters podcast, and Sam Stein, Politico deputy managing editor for politics. Both Glenn and Sam are MSNBC contributors. So, Glenn, why will the jury instructions be so crucial in this case?
Well, you know, Jose, the jury instructions are designed to sort of channel the jurors' deliberations. The jurors get to decide what the facts are. They get to decide the credibility of the witnesses. But once they decide those facts, it is the judge's instructions of law that they have to apply those facts to see if Donald Trump is guilty or if they believe that perhaps the prosecutors failed to prove Donald Trump's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. So I'll tell you, lawyers will pore over and obsess over the instructions of law because both parties will propose often competing instructions, and Judge Merchan had to decide which ones to give, and he has done that. And now I think what you're going to see in the defense closing arguments, Jose, is basically a reasonable doubt argument where they haven't presented a unified alternate theory to the prosecution's theory of the case. So they're probably going to argue that you should disbelieve everybody. You should disbelieve every piece of physical evidence. And they'll argue that the government has failed to prove Donald Trump's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. That is an appropriate argument, but it is not necessarily a winning argument when you can't provide the jury an alternate theory of the case.
Sam, how would the Trump campaign use this verdict, whatever it is, in messaging?
Well, very different messages for different verdicts, right? If he is found guilty, the message will be this is a corruption of the system of justice. This is a case brought by my general election opponent deliberately to upend my presidential campaign. He'll be going back to the well of victimhood that we've seen him do time and time again. And quite effectively, frankly. If there is a hung jury or if there is an outright acquittal, you can expect Trump to say complete exoneration. He will say the system of justice worked. Suddenly it's totally in reverse. And that despite the best efforts of his opponent, in this case, Joe Biden, he has emerged victorious. So those are the two expectations for how he plays it. Obviously, a lot more complications if he does get a guilty verdict in the end.
Dasha, how is the Trump campaign preparing?
Well, to Sam's point, the messaging is a big factor here, right? We don't know which way this is going to go, but we've already seen him starting to lay the groundwork. We just received a fundraising email from the Trump team asking for 1 million responses by midnight to the question, would you vote for me if I'm arrested? Of course, that arraignment process has already happened, but the sentiment is, will you stand by me no matter what? Because we have seen in polling some voters start to change their minds if there is a conviction in this case. So they're trying to dispel that narrative. The other piece of this here, Jose, is the physical, practical element of campaigning, right? His staff has been preparing for this trial to be over, to get more of his time, to get him out on the road, to deliver this message, whatever it is, whether it's I've been convicted and this is completely unfair or I've been vindicated. They are planning to go pedal to the metal at this point and use and make up for the time that he's been spending in the courtroom, Jose.
Glenn, everyone is expecting that the defense will go right after Cohen. You wrote in a piece for NBC News, quote, in many ways, Michael Cohen was nearly a perfect cooperating witness. What do you mean by that?
Well, Jose, cooperating witnesses by their very nature are people who committed crimes, often with the bigger criminal fish against whom they are testifying. And then they flip. They decide to sort of, turn over a new leaf and try to make right what they did so very wrong initially. And that's what Michael Cohen did. And he withstood more than 20 hours of cross-examination, by all accounts, without losing his cool, without lashing out, without getting angry, answering in a very straightforward, factual way. And importantly, he took responsibility for his own crimes. And it's only when a cooperator is fully prepared to take responsibility for their own crimes can prosecutors present them credibly to the jury when they begin testifying about the crimes of others. So because he was in this conspiracy, as alleged by the prosecutors, with Donald Trump, he's an insider to that secret agreement, and he was perfectly positioned to testify about not only his own crimes that he said were committed for the benefit of and at the direction of Donald Trump, but about Donald Trump's crimes as well. So in many ways, he's the stereotypical cooperating witnesses that prosecutors use to convict defendants, bigger criminal fish, every day of the week in jurisdictions all around the country.
Sam, we've seen some Republicans, including House Speaker Mike Johnson, show their support for Trump by attending the trial. Do you think that regardless of how it turns out, this is going to have an impact on Republicans, for example, House Republicans going forward?
Well, I think we need to draw a distinction. The elected Republicans, I think we sort of know where things stand. There's only a handful who are going to say they're fed up with this. They don't want anything to do with this. They're going to distance themselves from Trump. They already have to a large degree. Most of them, though, I think will rally behind Trump regardless of the verdict. That said, I think the distinction here is with the voting populace. This trial, as much as we obsess over it, hasn't broken through. And I think for the voting populace, it could be a big difference.
Sam Stein and Glenn Kirshner and Dasha Burns, thank you so very much.